Hey, Diane.
Hey, Jill.
All right, let's hear what's on your shit list today.
So, my shit list today is the entire patriarchy, I want to say, but in particular, one issue came across my news feed in the last week or so, and it was somebody calling Simone Biles by her husband's name as like Mrs. Owens or just because she's married to an NFL player. Now, in the context of that is ludicrous because Simone Biles is an elite athlete of her own right. Why are we even bringing the husband into that at all? If you're talking about Simone Biles, talk about Simone Biles and what she's done and accomplished, her millions of medals, slight exaggeration, but all of the things that she's done. There are actual gymnastics moves named for her because nobody else has ever done them and completed them before. So, why is it okay for journalists to use that context when referring to somebody like that? Why do we assume that because she's married to a famous athlete that it's okay to refer to her as that person's wife and not her own person? It just I don't know why it outraged me. I was so furious about this week. I've been on a bit of a tangent about it actually. It just makes me crazy. The amount of nonsense that goes on just because that person is female.
Yes, yes, as if women's sports aren't important as men's sports.
Yes. Women just in general don't seem to be as important as men, period, regardless of what the genre that we're talking about them in. But in that particular instance, you would think when you reach that height of elite athlete status, that
Mhm.
still, we're
Yeah,
still referring to that person by her husband as being married to a professional athlete. It's just such nonsense.
did she take her husband's last name? Like, is her
She did not.
okay? Well, that's a problem.
Right?
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know who her husband is.
Believe it's
Not that
Jonathan Owens.
Jonathan Owens. So, I if I use myself as a gauge and you say Jonathan Owens and Simone Biles, I have no
Right?
idea who Jonathan Owens is.
Exactly. Exactly.
They should call him Mr. Biles.
They should. 100%. That's what he should be referred to when he gets announced at NFL games. And here
Yes.
comes Mr. Biles. How's that?
It's so funny that, I mean, I agree with you. I think just generally women are discounted, that, we are not seen as important. Women's sports in particular, regardless of what
Mm.
sport it is. Like if you think about women's hockey versus men's hockey, right?
Yep.
Women's hockey is probably some of the best sports and hockey out there. These women are incredible. And often there's a discount for women's sports, which is unbelievable. I mean, look at, dare I say it, Trump. When he was talking about the two teams that won, the US men's and the US women's basketball, I believe it was.
No, I think it was hockey actually, because
Hockey,
I
was it
think he said
hockey?
something like, "Oh, now we're going to have to invite the women's team to the White
Yes,
House."
yes. So it goes to show you I don't follow hockey, but it's it's a good example, right? Like,
It's
how misogynistic do you need to be to say something like that? I mean, it's not acceptable to say it in a locker room around other men, but to say it actually in public on air,
yeah.
and not to mention all of the men agreeing with him, right?
Yeah,
So,
because they felt like they had to probably, but
yeah.
still. My husband and his sister have had numerous discussions about the difference between male sports and female sports because there is that whole salary discrepancy as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So My sister-in-law has many times said women should be making the exact same amount as men, which I totally agree in equal pay. The problem is that that whole industry is about market shares and sales, right?
Yeah,
So if there
exactly.
aren't bums in seats, then you can't pay the female athletes the same as you're paying the men, even though we want them to be paid that. Because if they're not bringing in the same amount of revenue, no
Yeah.
owner out there is going to give, $50 million contracts to any woman unless she's filling stadiums. And that's where we should all be putting our dollars. Is if any of us want that to change, we should all be buying tickets to female tennis and female hockey games and fill the seats, buy the merch, all of the things. That's the only way that that's ever going to change.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
hopeful. I'm hopeful because you're right. There's women's hockey now is spectacular. It is fun to watch. It's
Yeah.
it's equal, if not more aggressive sometimes as far as the sport itself. I have a good girlfriend of mine actually from high school that still plays women's hockey. Chicks with sticks and she kicks
Cool.
ass. And
Yeah.
I feel like if we all got out there a little bit more and instead of buying, concert tickets or this or that or whatever else, maybe catch a couple female sporting events, make that a kind of a mission to see how much money you can infuse into that industry and see if we can make a change in our generation. It would be great if that could happen.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interest. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a really interesting dynamic, right? If you think about, because it's all about profitability, what you're
Mhm.
talking about, and businesses have to be profitable. Otherwise, why would they exist, right? And if
Yeah.
an organization has to pay for a higher salary for a man because it's profitable versus women are paid less because they're less profitable. It's exactly like you said, it comes down to sales, revenue, and what the market can bear. So I think you're right. I don't know that it's going to happen. I'll be honest with you. It
I'm hopeful.
Are you? Are you
I am.
really?
Well, because honestly, if you think about even 15, 20 years ago, did you ever even see a female hockey player on TV?
True,
There was
true.
no sporting events being aired other than golf. There's always been women's golf and women's tennis, right? But other than that, we didn't have a WNBA. We didn't have all of these other platforms. And I think as soon as you start to have that happen, the infrastructure starts at a younger age. So when our kids were little, there was always children's soccer, right? There wasn't a
Yeah,
huge amount of anything other than soccer and hockey around where I grew up.
yeah,
Now it's becoming much more diverse. So there's female basketball, there's female volleyball, lacrosse, all of these different sports are all starting at a much younger age. So I'm hoping in the next couple generations that when those kids become adults and become elite athletes themselves, that they will put the bums in seats and people will buy the merch and hopefully
yeah,
we'll get there.
yeah,
It's the same with movie stars too. They say that all the time that the reason that, Tom Cruise gets 50 million a movie or whatever is because he fills the seats. But I think that was proven a good 10, 15 years ago that Jennifer Lawrence also puts as many bums in seats as some of her male counterparts. And
yeah.
she fought for her salary and she got it, God love her. I feel like that should be just straight across the board. And it is a supply and demand thing. I get that. But I think if you're just straight up not paying actresses as well as you're paying actors, there's no good reason for that unless you can prove that it's a box office draw.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. So I would extend that to business. So think of it
Mhm.
this way, right? So women in business have always been paid, I think it's like 80 cents on the dollar, right?
Mhm.
And it's
Yep.
even worse for black women who get, I think, 70 cents on the dollar in comparison to their male counterparts. And if you think about it, it's about profitability. And interestingly enough, they've actually proven that women who lead businesses, CEO women, are actually, in a lot of cases, more profitable than
Mm.
their male counterparts. Women are just more frugal. We know how to run things, right? We're great
Yeah,
project managers, we're great CEOs. So I think that's a really interesting dynamic where the profitability of an organization, a company, a sports team, if it is driving the salaries, then women should actually be paid more in business because they're more profitable. So
yeah,
I'd love to see that dynamic get flipped on its head.
that would be fantastic. I
Yeah.
think it's just straight up time for a matriarchy. I think we should just take over the world. We just need to get a little more organized.
I know. There's actually, you know what? And it's funny because we'll probably ask for permission. Like, are you done screwing up the planet yet? Because
Can
I
we
think
have a
it's,
turn?
yeah, I I know. I would love to see more women get into politics, become world leaders. There's obviously lots of women who have been in politics. I think the challenge is that there's always the I told you so, right? So they look at women leaders, whether it's political or in a corporate environment or whatever, and they look at their performance and they look at, the they say women are they can't handle the stress of politics. They can't
Yeah.
handle, the aggressiveness of politics, where it's actually been proven that that's not the case. I think what happens is, if you look at I think it was the Prime Minister of Australia, was it? No, it was New Zealand. I forget what her name was, but she was quite a prominent leader during the pandemic, and her name will come to me and I'll put it in the notes. But she was quite a prominent leader during the pandemic. She actually had the lowest numbers of, I think, in comparable countries in terms of deaths because of the steps that she took in order to prevent the spread. But she did end up leaving politics. And of course, the reason is I want to spend more time with my family. But that's the generic
Mm,
response to everybody leaving a high powered position. Probably the reality is she got tired of the misogynistic assholes
yeah.
who, like Trump as an example, who are just they're just assholes and they're destroying the planet. And I think there's a point at which women just kind of they don't give up, but they get exhausted. Like, I'm fucking exhausted. I'm tired of the bullshit, frankly. And I think that's what happens to a lot of women in politics. And they get attacked. Like politicians get attacked from all sides, and especially women. Other women attack women politicians. I
Mm,
remember I was on Facebook and there was a post from a relative about Krista Freeland, and it was something about a picture of her circulating. I think she had her foot up on a chair or something. And it was a nasty, nasty post going around. And I responded back to say, please don't do that. Don't put women politicians down. Don't say nasty things because they really, we have so few women politicians that they don't deserve to be put down for stupid things. And
yeah.
it's hard enough being a woman in politics, and we
It's
need
hard enough being
more
a
women in
woman.
politics,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
frustrating.
I had
Don't
a
make
very
me don't make me join the race because
It just reminded me of my good friend Fiona. Her husband was a writer for TV, and on one of their series, he wrote for a bunch of different series, and on one of their series, they had one female writer, and so in the writers' room, they all had their round table discussions and whatever, and she was trying to get a word in edgewise, trying to get a word in edgewise, and finally, when it became her turn, she actually said, and it's such a great graphic that I think of it often. She said, "Do you know that sometimes being in this room with all of you is like going through a car wash of dicks? It's just dick, 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 dick." I feel like that's probably how a lot of women feel in politics, in business, in anywhere where you're, that person that's not
yes,
the regular gender of the or the most common gender in that field.
yes. Yes.
But
I can say from personal experience, having been in a woman in the corporate world in a male dominated industry, it was exhausting. And dealing with so many dicks was
the car wash of dicks. I'll never forget
yeah,
that for as long as I live. It's such a
yeah,
great graphic.
yeah. Well, listen, on that note, that's our topic for today. I appreciate you bringing that up, and I agree. We need to figure out how to take over the world because I think women need to run the world.
All right, grab your torch and pitchfork. Let's go.
All right, let's go. All right, until next time, gigglers, keep on giggling.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that's it for today's episode. As always, we had a few giggles and we talked about a lot of shit.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Giggles and Shit Show. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend who could use a giggle.
You can follow the show and join the conversation on Substack at gigglesandshit.substack.com. That's giggles and shit with an n.substack.com. Subscribe to get new episodes, stories, and behind the scenes updates from the show straight to your inbox. Until next time, keep on giggling through the chaos and talking shit. Done. Nailed
Done.
it.
Nailed it. Oh gosh.